Effective immediately, all employees are expected to comply with revised dress code standards as outlined in Section 14B of the updated HR Handbook. Failure to present a professional appearance, specifically regarding fabric choices that deviate from traditional weaves, may result in disciplinary action. That email hit inboxes at 7:03 a.m. on a sweltering Austin Monday, time-stamped before Victoria had even finished microwaving her crusty egg white frittata. The subject line, Sparkles, let's look our best team, sparkles with emojis, Victoria's signature flair. Sloane read it twice, jaw tight, sipping her bitter black houndstooth cold brew in the corner cubicle near the Vanguard Analytics copy room, the one with the flickering fluorescent light that made everything feel like a hostage video. Of course, she knew exactly who the message was aimed at. No one else in the entire compliance department wore tailored charcoal wool trousers. Everyone else either showed up in ill-fitting khakis or resorted to those cheap Amazon pencil skirts that rode up like they had a vendetta. But Sloane dressed like she gave a damn quietly professionally, and that made her a target. Victoria, 31, HR manager, faux feminist tyrant in nude heels, had it out for Sloane ever since the day she discovered their salaries weren't as far apart as she thought. Kimberly, her clipboard-toting minion, minimally asked if Sloane's mature wardrobe was inspired by old FBI dramas. The laughter from that comment still echoed in the hallway sometimes, but Sloane hadn't blinked. She never did. That was her power. No theatrics, no eye rolls, just brutal, infuriating calm. She took the morning to do what she always did: real work. Scanning through algorithmic contract stipulations from the Department of Defense, cross-referencing predictive clearance schedules, and double-checking every quantum data classification tag before pushing them into the Vanguard Analytics internal system. It was invisible labor, thankless, and absolutely essential, and she was damn good at it. Most people in that domain office building didn't know what CUI data packets stood for, let alone how to file them. Sloane had recently passed a months-long vetting process that would have turned a lesser soul inside out. Interviews, background checks, even a surprise home inspection where two humorless men in government-issued trench coats asked about the frequency of her internet router resets. The reward: a slim, nearly unnoticeable badge embedded with a black-level cryptographic security chip, the highest clearance issued by DSS for civilian tech contractors. She hadn't told anyone. Why would she? That kind of power didn't belong in the mouth of an office gossip like Kimberly. The badge stayed tucked inside a reinforced leather case in her purse, quiet, hidden, waiting. At 10:17 a.m., Victoria walked by with her usual fanfare, heels clicking, perfume cloud choking the oxygen out of the hallway, and made a dramatic U-turn into Sloane's workspace. "Oh, hey Sloane," she said, drawing the words out like taffy. "Just wanted to check in. You had a chance to review the updated attire policy." Sloane didn't look up. "I have. Nothing in there applies to me." Kimberly materialized 2 seconds later as if conjured by mean girl sorcery. "It's just that we're really trying to create a unified aesthetic, you know," she chirped. "And some of the older styles can send confusing messages." Sloane finally looked up. "Confusing to whom?" "The Pentagon." Kimberly's smile flickered. Victoria smirked. "Just making sure we're all on the same page." After all, some people don't always realize when they're towing the line. "I don't tow lines," Sloane said flatly. "I write them." Section 16A of the Vanguard Defense Compliance Brief trumps any HR memo, but I'm sure you already knew that. Victoria's cheeks tightened. She didn't respond, just gave that fake little smile, the one that never reached her eyes, then turned and left in a puff of citrus-flavored hostility. Kimberly scurried after her, whispering something that made them both cackle like they just pantsed the prom queen. Sloane returned to her screen, but something in her chest had shifted. The cold, familiar twitch of office sabotage. She'd felt it before, back when a previous manager had forgotten to sign off on her promotion paperwork 3 years in a row. Or when she was asked to train a junior analyst who was later promoted to lead over her. None of it shocked her anymore. The email, the emoji-laced threat hiding behind bureaucratic fluff, felt different. It was clumsy, emotional, reckless, which meant Victoria was getting bold, and boldness from small minds was dangerous. Sloane glanced at her purse. The badge sat nestled between a bag of almonds and a portable charger, humming with silent authority, a digital fingerprint of trust from the most paranoid government on Earth. She hadn't earned it by being nice. earned it by knowing how to stay invisible until visibility became a weapon, and now it felt like someone was itching to make her visible. The sound of the break room espresso machine wheezing its last ounce of stale roast was almost a comfort until Sloane caught the scent of something fouler than burned beans. Vanilla body spray and weaponized self-importance. Victoria. Sloane had just reached for a plastic stirrer when she felt the room temperature drop 6 degrees. She didn't need to turn around. She knew that breathy exhale. Oh, wow. Victoria cooed loudly enough for Kimberly to hear from 3 cubicles down. Sloane, those pants are interesting. Sloane blinked once slowly. The trousers were a tailored pair of slate gray mid-rise with a subtle herringbone pattern so fine it might as well have been woven by ghosts. But in Victoria's court of law, fabric patterns were now apparently felony-level offenses. Victoria circled her like a lioness that overdosed on LinkedIn affirmations. I just wasn't sure if you'd gotten the update last week about textile conformity. Section 14. B. You did read the handbook, right? Sloane took a slow sip of her cold brew. I edited the handbook for grammar. 3 typos, by the way. Victoria gave a shrill laugh and placed a hand on her hip. We just want to be consistent across the department, that's all. Those pants, chic in a Downton Abbey sort of way, don't quite align with the traditional weave requirement. Behind her, Kimberly had materialized like a wart. It's about cohesion, she chirped, as if they were part of some high-fashion cult. Team synergy starts with fabric integrity. Sloane turned toward them, coffee in hand, spine perfectly straight. Is this a formal HR complaint? Victoria blinked. No, just a conversation, peer to peer, woman to woman. Good, Sloane said, because this woman's contract doesn't include conversations based on personal taste masquerading as policy. From the corner of her eye, she saw Preston Blake, her direct supervisor, hovering awkwardly by the hallway. He clocked the scene, made eye contact with her, then promptly pivoted and vanished into the nearest stairwell like the coward he was. Not even a nod, not even a shrug, just a gutless disappearing act. Victoria took a step closer, voice lowered but still sugary. All just trying to make sure we're seen as reliable professionals, especially with sensitive algorithmic work coming up, high-level data contracts and all that. Wouldn't want the wrong impression given. So she did know something was brewing, even if she didn't know what. The black badge hadn't gone unnoticed after all. Maybe she'd caught a glimpse. Maybe Kimberly had snooped. Either way, the dress code wasn't about pants anymore. It was about control, about sending a message. Wrong impression, Sloane said, leveling her gaze. From whom? The Department of Defense. I think they care more about quantum encrypted files than pinstripes. Victoria stiffened, the smile cracking ever so slightly. We just have standards. You have obsessions, Sloane said calmly. I have clearance. That landed like a punch. Victoria opened her mouth to respond, but found nothing clever to say. She gave a tight, performative shrug and walked off, not before glancing down at Sloane's trousers like they'd personally insulted her diploma from whatever HR boot camp she'd frothed her way through. The hallway buzzed again. No one said a word, but Sloane could feel eyes burning through frosted glass, pretending not to stare. Corporate theater. Everyone always claimed to hate drama until it came with front row seats and bad coffee. She walked back to her desk in silence, each click of her heel carving a deeper line between restraint and rage. She didn't slam her keyboard, she didn't send a flaming email, she just stared at her screen for a moment longer than usual. Then she opened her locked drawer and pulled out a notebook. She flipped past the pages of encrypted policy notes and compliance diagrams until she found the one labeled lines crossed. She added a date. Under it, just 2 words, textile war. The email arrived at 3:12 p.m. Subject line, HR matter, immediate attention required. No body text, no salutation. Just a calendar attachment with a 15-minute window and a location. Room 3C. Sloane stared at it for a few seconds before standing slow and silent like someone rising from her own funeral. The click of her badge locking her terminal echoed louder than it should have. Her desk, with its neat Vanguard analytics folders and color-coded sticky notes, looked alien now, like it belonged to someone else, like a crime scene. She walked down the hall with all the ceremony of a condemned woman on her final stroll, past the interns pretending to look busy, past Preston's office, door shut, blinds down, coward. Room 3C was already occupied when she arrived. Victoria was seated at the head of the small conference table, her iPad angled just so like she was hosting a TED Talk on weaponized condescension. Kimberly sat to her right, fiddling with a pink gel pen like a nervous squirrel. On the left sat Garrison Wells, Senior Operations Manager, a man who'd once congratulated Sloan on a 72-page data audit brief by saying, "That's a lot of words for compliance stuff." He now looked deeply uncomfortable, as if he'd been promised a simple witness role and not the chance to star in an execution. "Sloan," Victoria said, tone dipped in faux warmth. "Thank you for joining us. I was ordered to," Sloan replied, seating herself with the quiet grace of someone about to lose everything and still refusing to give them the pleasure. "We'll get straight to the point," Kimberly chirped, unfolding a typed script. "This is a formal termination meeting conducted in accordance with corporate procedure outlined in Section 8B of the Vanguard Employee Accountability Guidelines." Sloan blinked. Victoria continued, eyes gleaming. "Due to repeated non-compliance with our updated dress code policy and a demonstrated pattern of insubordination when addressed, the company has no choice but to terminate your employment effective immediately." Kimberly handed Sloan a 2-page document with the words "Final Notice" printed in bold red letters across the top like it was a parking ticket. "You've been warned multiple times," Victoria went on. "This morning's confrontation was simply the last straw." Sloan scanned the document. Her name, her employee ID, the word defiance appeared 3 times. There was no mention of her clearance level, no mention of her algorithmic output, which was spotless. Just phrases like workplace cohesion and cultural tone setting. She felt nothing at first, no tears, no anger, just a cold vacuum in her chest, sucking out the last bit of belief she'd clung to that professionalism still meant something. "I see," she said, voice even. "Just to be clear, I'm being terminated for a pattern of dress code violations." Victoria nodded. "Among other behavior concerns." "Yes. Such as?" Kimberly looked flustered. "Tone resistance, comments that have been interpreted as undermining leadership, including your own." Victoria's smile flickered. "Let's not make this harder than it has to be." Sloan gave a dry laugh, no joy behind it. "You already did that when you turned woven wool into a crime." Victoria leaned forward, smug. "Understand this is difficult, but as we say around here, policies are only as strong as our willingness to enforce them." From behind Sloan's locked terminal, still visible through the glass wall of room 3C, a blue notification flashed across the screen. None of them noticed it at first, but Sloan did. "DSS mandated system check-in. Overdue." The screen dimmed. The alert pulsed. Victoria turned, noticed it, and smirked. "Guess you won't be needing that anymore." Sloan said nothing, just stared at the screen. She could feel the air getting thicker. Her fingertips buzzed with the static of rage held under pressure. "Please, collect your belongings," Kimberly said softer now. "Rehearse sympathy taking over. Someone from IT will escort you out." "Of course," Sloan said, standing with deliberate calm. "Wouldn't want to cause a quantum security breach," Victoria laughed. "Don't be dramatic, Sloan." She didn't answer. She just turned toward the door. But before she left, paused and glanced over her shoulder. "You just fired the only person in this building who knew how to keep your Vanguard defense contract from collapsing like a Dollar Tree lawn chair." 3 faces blinked at her, blank, uncomprehending. Sloan smiled. "Enjoy your fabric integrity." The walk back to her desk felt longer than it ever had, somehow stretched out like the office itself was enjoying her humiliation. The box they gave her was insultingly small, the kind designed for sympathy, not logistics. A single sheet of bubble wrap fluttered uselessly in the bottom like a condolence prize. Sloan didn't cry, she didn't tremble, but she could feel it crawling up her spine. That slow, simmering flush of public shame. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind that settles into your bones and echoes with every "Are you okay?" offered by people who never gave a damn before today. She passed the predictive modeling pod first. No one said anything. Rachel looked up, blinked, then quickly bent her head back to her screen. Jason gave a half-hearted nod like they'd run into each other in the kombucha aisle at the flagship Whole Foods on Lamar, not 5 feet from the open wound of her career. Next was accounts receivable. One of the interns mouthed, "I'm so sorry," with the kind of panicked eyes normally reserved for funerals. Sloan gave a polite, dead-eyed smile. She kept walking. By the time she reached her cubicle, Preston was standing there, useless as ever, hands in his pockets like a guilty teenager. "Hey, he said, clearing his throat. "Sorry to see you go, Sloane." She tilted her head. "Are you?" He opened his mouth, but no sound came. After a beat, he nodded. "Well, good luck out there." Then he walked away. She stared at his back as it receded down the hallway, vanishing into the warm safety of managerial spinelessness. It was a perfect, really fitting exit gesture from a man who once spent 10 full minutes in a meeting explaining the importance of being a team player, while she silently fixed a federal algorithmic compliance error that would have cost them 6 figures. The desk itself was still hers at least for the next 10 minutes. She began packing with quiet efficiency. The framed photo of her and her sister at Big Bend National Park. Her personalized mug that said "Trust but verify." Legal pads scribbled with notes on quantum procurement protocols. A small cactus she'd nursed back to life after Kimberly overwatered it last year, possibly on purpose. Everything went into the box except the badge. It lay beneath her keyboard, right where she always kept it, shielded from view, its black surface, unmarked, save for the government-issued RFID number embossed near the bottom. She picked it up gently, like it was a matchstick with the power to burn the whole place down. She took out the protective sleeve from her purse, a thick black envelope lined with RFID blocking mesh. It was labeled "Property of DSS Do Not Discard." She slid the badge in with the care of someone locking away a loaded gun. Victoria had smirked at that screen alert. Didn't even ask what it meant, didn't know what it could mean. Sloane zipped the bag and slung it over her shoulder. She looked around one last time, not at the people, but at the paper. The files, half-finished algorithmic data logs still blinking on her screen. Each one, a tiny thread holding together a $50 million contract. Threads she'd been stitching alone for months, now frayed, now untended. She walked to the elevator. No one followed. At the front desk, it was waiting. A thin man in a faded hoodie who couldn't meet her eyes handed her a sealed envelope. "Final paycheck and Cobra info," he mumbled. "Lovely," she said, dropping it into the box like garbage. The elevator doors opened. She stepped in, turned around, and as they closed, she watched the Vanguard Analytics lobby shrink away. The glass walls, the fake smiles, the fake plants, the fake everything. She didn't cry, but deep in her stomach, a new feeling was forming. Not grief, not even anger, resolve, cold, clean, metallic. Something had just been set in motion, and nobody in that building had the clearance to see it coming. Sloane had just started peeling the sticker off her now useless employee badge when the glass doors whooshed open behind her with a gust of sweltering late afternoon Austin wind and purpose. Not that distracted sort of entry you get with sales reps or interviewees fumbling with portfolios. No, this was military precision energy, the kind that turned heads without raising voices. Sloane glanced up from the vinyl lobby chair just in time to see a man and a woman in matching dark suits step through, like they'd been summoned by seismic instability. No logos on the briefcases. No name tags, but their posture said everything. These people were not here for onboarding. The man was tall, close-cropped hair, his tie so symmetrical it looked stenciled. The woman wore a severe bun and walked half a step ahead of him, scanning the room like she was casing it. Both wore slim lapel pins, black circular, with the unmistakable eagle insignia encased in a silver ring. Her breath caught. DSS, not tech compliance. DSS, not fun acronym DSS. No, this was the real thing. Defense Security Service. The ones who didn't knock unless protocols had been shredded, set on fire, and left smoldering in a corner. The woman approached the reception desk without so much as a glance at the directory wall. "We need to speak with Walter Phelps, head of security, and Chadsworth Harrington, your CEO, immediately." Her tone was sharp but controlled, the kind of voice that skipped please and still wasn't rude, just dangerous. Reception stammered. They're both in meetings right now. Can I?" The man leaned in. Not a request. Reception froze. Picked up the phone, dialing with the speed of someone who didn't want to be held responsible for what happened next. Sloane sat still, the envelope with her final paycheck crinkling in her lap. 1,000 things moved through her brain at once. Payroll dates, severance math, the leftover yogurt still in her desk drawer. But they all burned away in the face of one searing realization. The system check-in, the badge deactivation, the overdue protocol. They had noticed. The government had noticed, which meant someone had finally opened the wrong algorithmic node without authorization. Or maybe they tried to access the quantum shared drive she'd partitioned off per DSS instruction. Maybe Victoria, in her infinite genius, had signed the offboarding checklist without running a cryptographic security wipe. Whatever the trigger was, it didn't matter now. It was happening. Her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted the strap on her purse. She kept her head down, feigning disinterest, but her ears were locked in. The receptionist hung up. "They'll be down in just a minute." The woman nodded. The man's eyes swept the room. They landed briefly on Sloane, lingered for half a second, then moved on. He didn't recognize her. Not yet. Sloane exhaled carefully. Inside her chest, something old and buried cracked open. A jolt of adrenaline fused to grim satisfaction. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't petty. She hadn't just lost her job over a pair of pants, been terminated in violation of a federal security contract. And now the adults had arrived. The lobby grew quieter, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Two predictive modeling girls emerged from the elevator, giggling about some slack thread, then fell silent when they caught sight of the suits. One of them mouthed, "Wow," and pivoted back inside. Sloane sat still, composed, but deep down her world had tilted, not backward, forward. In the gravity of that slow motion shift, the humiliation of the past hour was burning off like mist under a blowtorch. They didn't know what they'd done, but they were about to. The elevator dinged, a fast one, executive override. Sloane didn't have to look up to know who would step out. She could already hear it, the tight clack of heels trying too hard not to sound frantic. Victoria, flanked by Kimberly, whose clipboard was missing for the first time in recorded office history. Victoria's steps were stiff, mechanical. Her usual posture, chin high, jaw set like a pageant queen at war, had vanished. Her face was pale, not tired, not stressed. Pale, as in blood vacated, horror vacuumed, what have I done kind of pale. They didn't acknowledge Sloane as they passed. Couldn't. Victoria's eyes flicked toward her for half a second, landed, and immediately recoiled like they'd touched a live wire. Sloane didn't move. She didn't blink. She just sipped the lukewarm cold brew she'd been nursing since her own walk of shame, now watching as the shame boomeranged back at warp speed. The conference room door clicked open behind them. "Ms. Davenport," came Agent Cross's voice, cool and unhurried. Victoria turned so fast her badge lanyard whipped sideways. "Why, yes, inside. Now." Victoria obeyed. Kimberly wasn't invited. She wilted back to the hallway like a ghost denied entry to the underworld. The door shut with a padded finality that made the receptionist wince. The office was too quiet again. A few necks craned from cubicles pretending to look for printer paper. Inside the conference room, voices rose in muffled panic. Sloane couldn't catch every word, but fragments floated through the lobby like wreckage. Unauthorized personnel. Classified algorithmic asset. Contract breached. Then, she was let go before the check-in window. A male voice, "Agent Harrison," likely, dropped like a brick. You let her go without notifying DSS. A pause, then chaos. Chadsworth Harrington, CEO, came down himself this time, his usually smug expression replaced with a sweat-laced panic. Necktie yanked crooked like he tried to strangle himself on the elevator ride. He blew past the receptionist, past the copier, through the waiting area until he saw Sloane. He stopped dead in front of her, breath ragged. "Sloane," he said, smiling too wide, too forced. Would you mind stepping into my office for a quick chat?" She looked at him, not rising. "I no longer work here," she said evenly, just loud enough to be heard by the interns eavesdropping from behind the ficus. "You'll have to make an appointment." His mouth opened, closed, his Adam's apple bobbed. "Please try it again. Just a quick." She stood slowly, calm as an earthquake before it hits, her purse still slung over one shoulder, the black badge still zipped inside like a detonator. "I'm sure your team can handle it," she said. "After all, it's just fabric, right?" Chadsworth's face twisted with the panic of a man realizing the iceberg wasn't theoretical anymore. She brushed past him without waiting for a response. Behind her, the conference room door opened again. Victoria stepped out, visibly shaking. Her mouth moved toward some defense, some excuse, some gasp of HR doublespeak. But Sloane didn't give her the audience. She kept walking. She didn't look back, not because she didn't want to see their faces, but because she already had, and they looked exactly like justice. Sloane had just made it to the lobby's glass exit doors when the unmistakable sound of polished shoes on tile stopped her cold. Not the scamper of interns, not the desperate shuffle of Kimberly in kitten heels, no. These footsteps had weight, authority, purpose. She turned just as Agents Harrison and Cross approached her from behind. "Ms. Vance?" Agent Cross asked, her tone clipped but respectful. Sloane raised an eyebrow, half turning. "Still am, unless you'd like to revoke that, too." Agent Harrison gave the faintest smile. "We understand today's events were unexpected. We'd like a moment of your time." Behind them, the elevator pinged again. The doors parted to reveal Chadsworth Harrington, breathless, followed by Victoria, eyes red, makeup streaked, the fresh face of corporate comeuppance. They froze in place like two children watching the principal hand their report cards to the police. "Of course," Sloane said, straightening her purse strap. "Let's talk." The agents flanked her, one on each side, walking her back toward the conference area, not into the room where the execs had been spiraling minutes earlier. Instead, they paused near the reception area where everyone could see. The message was clear. She wasn't being taken anywhere. They were speaking with her voluntarily, respectfully. "Ms. Vance," Agent Harrison began, "we're reviewing the clearance, oversight, and response protocol related to your termination. Your record with DSS is clean, pristine, in fact. Your work on the quantum encrypted data handling back in Q1 flagged positive attention." Cross nodded. "We have questions, of course, but primarily we want your cooperation with the next phase. The contract still exists, the mission hasn't changed, but the contractor might." Sloane took a breath. Cold, heavy clarity was beginning to settle in her bones. This was the moment everything turned. She glanced sideways. Chadsworth Harrington was standing near the ficus, sweat soaking through his dress shirt like a Rorschach test of regret. Victoria looked like she might faint. Kimberly had vanished, probably dissolved into her clipboard. Chadsworth stepped forward, voice trembling with the urgency of a man watching his career circling the drain. "Sloane, Ms. Vance, look, let's be reasonable. Obviously, things were mishandled on both sides. I'd like to formally offer you your position back." She didn't respond. "And a raise," he added quickly. 10%. No, 15. Full reinstatement. Senior title. We'll put it in writing right now." Everyone in the lobby froze. The receptionist stopped typing. A junior exec paused halfway through her vape outside the window. Even the ficus looked offended. Sloane tilted her head, eyes calm and merciless. "The salary you could afford," she said, "wouldn't cover the therapy required to forget working for you." Dead silence. Chadsworth's mouth opened like he might object, but nothing came out. He turned back to the agents. "Where would you like to talk?" Agent Cross gave a small nod. "We have a field office across town, but no rush. You're not under review. We're simply inviting you to help fix what they broke." Sloane smirked, finally allowing herself the pleasure of it. "They broke a lot." Agent Harrison held the door open for her. As she walked out between the agents, past the stunned faces, the frozen fear, and the now irrelevant org chart, Sloane felt the last trace of humiliation drain from her blood like poison being drawn from a wound. She wasn't rehired, she'd been upgraded. They hadn't made it 3 steps toward the sweltering domain parking lot when Agent Harrison's phone buzzed. He stopped mid-stride, checked the screen, and muttered, "1 minute." His voice didn't change, but Sloane saw the flicker of something new in his eyes. Confirmation. The kind that comes at the end of a long string of escalated red flags. He turned on his heel and walked back into the building, motioning for Agent Cross to stay with Sloane. "Won't take long." Inside, chaos had settled into that eerie corporate silence, the kind that happens after a fire alarm, where everyone pretends to work but only stares at Slack, waiting for disaster to bloom. Sloane didn't follow, but she could see through the glass. Agent Harrison didn't knock. He walked straight past reception, past the panic-stricken executive assistant, into the fishbowl conference room like he owned it. Chadsworth Harrington stood there, hands on his hips, trying to maintain the posture of a man still in control of something. Harrison dropped a single manila folder onto the glass table. The conversation started low, clipped. Chadsworth's jaw moved faster than his words. Victoria hovered behind him like a ghost tied to the scene of her own crime. Then Harrison opened the folder. From outside, Sloane watched it all in quiet, razor-sharp focus. Chadsworth leaned forward. His face changed. The kind of change that doesn't happen gradually. It snaps. First denial, then recognition, then devastation. He sat down hard like someone had knocked the spine out of him. Victoria took 1 step back, then another until her back hit the glass wall. Agent Harrison's voice was no longer low. It carried. Mishandling of a cleared federal algorithmic asset. Irreversible chain of internal cryptographic security violations. No less than 6 failed protocols. all signed off by your HR department. Chadsworth stood up again, trembling. There's got to be some fix, a clause, a workaround. This contract is our lifeline. Harrison didn't flinch. Your eligibility for the $50 million federal contract is now void. The breach triggered a full DSS audit. Your company is being placed under review, effective immediately. Silence. Then colder. Ms. Victoria Davenport has been flagged as the origin point of the breach. Her credentials are now invalid. Expect formal communication by the end of the day. That landed like a sniper shot. Victoria collapsed into the nearest chair, blinking like she'd just been yanked out of a dream. Sloan saw her lips form the word how, but no one answered. The door hissed open and Agent Harrison stepped back out. Sloan raised an eyebrow. All good? He nodded once. Been notified. A few paces behind him, Chadsworth stepped into view, deflated, sweating, eyes hollow. He looked at Sloan like she held the detonator because in a way she had, and she hadn't even pressed the button. He opened his mouth but nothing came out. Victoria followed a second later, mascara streaking like prison bars down her face. She wouldn't look directly at Sloan. Couldn't. Sloan didn't gloat, she didn't smile, she just stared. This wasn't satisfaction. This wasn't revenge. It was something cleaner, something colder, like watching a ship sink that should have never been seaworthy to begin with. The building behind her was still standing, but the world inside it had collapsed. The glass doors slid shut behind her one last time. No box in her hands, no cardboard trophy of corporate exile, just her purse, her badge, and the scent of scorched ego wafting from Vanguard Analytics like smoke from a controlled demolition. The air outside hit different now, sharper, cleaner, charged with the static hum of something not yet written. Sloan stood for a moment on the concrete landing, watching the clouds break apart overhead like even the sky had decided the sweltering Austin day had earned a little theater. Agent Cross caught up a few paces behind her, heels clicking with casual authority. "You handled that well," she said. "I handled that quietly," Sloan replied. "There's a difference." Cross smiled, the kind that actually meant something. She reached into her coat and pulled out a simple cream-colored business card. No title, just a name, a direct number, and a discreet DSS seal pressed into the paper like a watermark from Olympus. "We subcontract oversight roles," Cross said. "Especially when a primary contractor is compromised, as yours clearly was." Sloan turned the card over between her fingers. "I assume the pay is better." Cross gave a small nod. "Better, cleaner. Saner?" Sloan raised an eyebrow. "You work for the federal government. Sanity is not the word I'd use. We prefer working with people who understand protocol," Cross said, her tone dropping half a notch into something more deliberate. "People who don't flinch when idiots in HR try to wield power they don't understand. People who know how to handle chaos and keep their mouths shut until the right moment." A pause. "And the government still needs this algorithmic project to happen, Sloan. The file doesn't go away just because the contractor self-destructed. Give us a call next week." She tapped the edge of the card twice against Sloan's palm before slipping her hands back into her coat and walking off with the ease of someone who already knew the ending. Sloan stood there a while longer, watching Cross disappear around the corner, the buzz of Mopac Expressway traffic returning to fill the air, the world continuing like none of this had happened. And maybe to the world, it hadn't, but to her, this was the world now. Not office birthday cakes, not synergy huddles, not passive-aggressive calendar invites disguised as performance threats, not pleated slacks on men who couldn't spell quantum compliance but made six figures anyway. This world, the real one, was forged in silence and sealed documents and cryptographic codes that didn't belong on whiteboards. It was built by people who understood gravity. And finally, she wasn't just floating in it, she was anchored. Sloan slid the card into the same pocket that held her badge. Then she walked to her car. No glance back, no slow motion goodbye. Just Texas sunlight, metal, and the strange comfort of knowing the house had burned down. And she was the only one who walked out without a single blister. Let them rebuild, let them scramble, let them wonder how she's sleeping at night. Spoiler, like a goddamn diplomat. Thanks for joining the fun, you office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's make your former coworkers sweat.